Okay, let's jump right in and actually transport you directly into the boots of a 17th century outcast. I want you to imagine for just a second that the life you were born into was completely decided centuries before you even took your first breath. And literally the very air you breathe, it carries the weight of a deadly, inescapable legacy.
So, you start your life in a comfortably forgettable family in 17th century England. You aren't rich enough for fancy silk, but hey, you're not poor enough to starve either. Your mother does all the cooking and cleaning, but she keeps you entirely isolated from the other kids. Why? Well, she constantly warns you about these stray wolves that supposedly roam around the neighborhood, just waiting to snack on children. Meanwhile, your dad, he's barely around, always out doing some mysterious work. Now, your first major achievement in this life? Simply surviving the 40% infant mortality rate to reach your first birthday. 40%! Think about that for a second. You've officially dodged the Grim Reaper's New Dawn sweep, so congratulations, you get to live. But the reality of what your life is actually going to entail? Yeah, that's about to come crashing down. By the time you're 3 years old, a simple trip to the market for some vegetables completely shatters your sheltered reality. Instead of it being this grand adventure, the public just stares at you. They whisper, they glare, some even curse at you and your mom. You're just a toddler. You're probably thinking, what, did I drop food on my shirt? But then you hear someone actually spit out the harsh words, executioner's brat. Your mother grabs you, hauls you home, but man, your curiosity is completely unleashed now.
That night, you wait up. Your flamboyant father finally walks through the door wearing a coat that makes him look like he just stepped right off a stage. You demand answers. And with a heavy sigh, he drops the dark truth. He is the man the city calls when they want someone dead. He is the walking embodiment of justice. Suddenly, those stray wolves your mom talked about, they don't seem so scary anymore. But to your absolute horror, he explains that because he's getting older, a vacancy is opening up. And guess what? You are next in line.
Just like that, your dreams of shaping steel as a blacksmith or gutting enemies on the battlefield as a knight, dead, gone. Your father sits you down and he doesn't sugarcoat it. He tells you straight up, nobody in the city will let you do anything else. His father was an executioner, his grandfather was an executioner. You are completely, hopelessly trapped in the family business. You are now stuck on an inescapable conveyor belt. Let's look at how this builds. At 3, you learn the truth. By 12, you're doing tool preparation. At 14, it's anatomy and torture. It maps out the grim milestones of your youth, forcing you down this horrific generational path. There's no escaping this, and your dark education begins relatively early.
Right, so at age 12, your training officially starts. Like any tradesman, you start small. You're maintaining the gruesome tools of the trade, sharpening axes and swords, sorting ropes, and yes, scrubbing the execution sites after someone loses their head. It is incredibly gruesome, but you kind of tell yourself it's bearable because, well, at least you haven't actually had to watch someone die yet.
But of course, you totally jinxed it. 8 months in, your father calls you up to witness your first real execution. A weeping man stands on the scaffold begging for mercy while his kids are in the crowd screaming for his life. And your dad? He just stands there like the Grim Reaper. The rope snaps the man's neck. Witnessing this hits you with this bitter, angry realization. That villainous role, standing on that scaffold while the entire city glares at you, that's going to be you. So you clean up the blood and you'll haul the body away.
Then you hit 14, and the real training begins. Honestly, it makes the last 2 years of scrubbing bloodstains feel like a vacation. Step 1 is human anatomy. But this isn't taught with dusty old books. No, you learn by watching your dad slice open real corpses right in front of you. And if you gag or turn away from a sliced open body, you learn the hard way. Every mistake earns you a severe beating.
Because here's the thing, executioners don't just kill, they extract information. You have to learn the grim art of torture. You watch your father tear out a man's teeth one by one as the victim writhes in agony. And as horrific as it is, you start to discover the twisted science behind it all. You learn that pulling teeth with pliers is much cleaner than using your bare hands, and you master exactly how to keep a man alive just long enough to make him confess.
Then comes the paperwork. Seriously, you spend 2 whole years memorizing laws, city regulations, and strict execution protocols. It's a completely uncontested profession. Literally nobody ever applies for the job, so you have zero competition. Finally, to prove you're ready, you have to practice by torturing actual prisoners for their confessions. When your father sees that you can successfully break a man without flinching, he gives you the nod. You're ready.
So the big day arrives for your very first public execution.
You step out onto the scaffold wrapped in this terrifying black cloak. Now, it's not to hide your identity, everyone knows exactly who you are. It's just to strike fear into the crowd. You keep your back straight, your grip firm, but inside, you are shaking. Your heart is absolutely hammering against your ribs, and you're relying entirely on your father's brutal advice echoing in your head. Fake it till you make it.
The convicted man is dragged to the podium, forced to his knees. A priest murmurs a final blessing. You don't hesitate. Your sword flashes in one disturbingly smooth motion. The head flies. The crowd literally gasps in disbelief because the execution was so incredibly fast and seamless. And in that single, horrifying moment, you realize you are undeniably, frighteningly good at this.
So, your father retires and you officially become the city's executioner. You inherit a reality of incredible extremes. On one hand, you have perks, high pay for keeping the streets sane, market authority, and claiming the dead's belongings. On the other hand, you are a complete pariah. You're hated by the public, spat on by priests, and totally banned from the church.
Let's talk about one of those twisted perks. You're allowed to take whatever you want from the dead. Clothes, jewelry, boots. You are literally building your wardrobe on corpses. You can parade through the market completely untouchable. Imagine a girl. Let's call her Elizabeth. You beheaded her father just yesterday. And she has to watch silently as you walk past wearing her dad's favorite coat. She wishes you dead, for sure, but she can't do a single thing about it.
Socially, though, you're a total outcast. Deemed unclean by the church, you're only allowed in for very rare, special masses. Yet society still expects you to get married, so you buy a house on the outskirts of the city and marry a beautiful outcast, a woman with no family to judge her for marrying the city butcher. It's an incredibly empty ceremony. No priests, no real guests, just your parents and an aunt who probably only showed up for a free meal. But against all odds, you actually find a rare slice of happiness with someone who truly understands you.
The years roll by. Your reputation spreads to neighboring cities, and you become this feared legend. You eventually rack up a staggering 1,000 executions under your belt. 1,000. Let that sink in. You are feared more than any of your ancestors ever were.
But let me be clear, you absolutely do not take pride in this staggering statistic. The crushing weight of 1,000 deaths, it tortures your mind. Every single night, their faces just flood your dreams. The screams of the condemned crawl inside your ears and refuse to leave. The psychological toll of the blade is absolute agony on your soul.
Just as the weight starts to feel completely unbearable, life grants you one fleeting, beautiful moment of true joy. Your wife gives birth to a son and a daughter, and you love them fiercely. The only thing that matters in your dark, twisted world is protecting them and just trying to give them a good life.
However, time catches up with everyone, doesn't it? You start to feel it in your bones, in your muscles. That imposing stance that once made you a pillar of fear, it becomes really hard to hold. Your hands actually start to shake. And in this brutal profession, a sloppy mistake doesn't just mean getting fired, it means your own execution. Your shaking hands are a loud, clear signal that your time swinging the blade is coming to an end.
And here is the true tragedy. To ensure your son survives in a world entirely without mercy, you have to take him aside and begin his training. You have to force him to be better with the blade than you were. You must carve the exact same unyielding fate into him that your father carved into you. He hates it, just like you did. But it is literally the only way he will survive.
Because in this world, you do not live by mercy, you live by the blade. So I want to leave you with a final thought to ponder today. If survival requires you to trap your own child in a legacy of death, are you the villain or just another prisoner? When living by the blade is your only inheritance, who is truly to blame for the monster you inevitably become?